What's up, everyone? Facecheck here, breaking down the Rumble stage. Dom, LS, myself, we're able to coordinate and get this one in the books. Hopefully you all are ready, your body's ready, because there was a lot that happened in the Rumble stage that we wanted to hit on over. It'll be a little bit shorter because it was Rumble stage, maybe one change at a position that one of us cares about way too much that we won't really talk about too much because it might hurt their feelings if we talk about it too much. Some scheduling snafu issues, maybe. What's going on? LPL gets to play first and the back-to-back thing. Dom, how was your watching experience of Rumble stage and all the news that unfolded this week?
I don't know why, but I feel like MSI has brought out like the worst in my community or something. Like every single day, I don't know if it's just international competition, but every single like day I've streamed has literally just felt like I'm going to war with my chat, trying to defend like pretty sane and rational opinions. So yeah, I don't know. I've been not enjoying MSI. I'm thinking about taking a little bit of a break after it.
Look what you've done, chat. Same thing for you, LS?
I missed 2 of the days of MSI, but I ended up watching the VODs of one of them. But yeah, I mean, there's something weird in the community right now that I don't know what's causing it with MSI, but it seems like there's just in general like a lot of negativity around MSI. I feel like that's a pretty widespread take that a lot of people have. I don't know. It seems like everyone that I talk to that's watching it just still doesn't really like it that much, even though I think that some of the games towards the end were definitely a lot better. But I don't know. We have the top 4 now, so maybe the games will be better.
Yep. Can't wait to see Cloud9 play in semis. Should be fun.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Wait, what? Well, of course they beat PCS, right? PCS, like, I don't know. One player on C9 is worth the whole PCS region.
Oh God. It's all right. Someone gonna break it to him. We got our bracket updated right here for the knockout stage. It's Damwon against Mad Lions, RNG against PSG, the PCS representative, the top heavy region favorite, coming on in and being, decided by Damwon as the better lower seed over Mad Lions. But before we get to that, we got to talk about the stage, the Rumble stage. It's the newest addition to the competitive LoL esports space. Man, Cloud9 and Pentanet just biffed it. I can't believe Pentanet didn't make it out. You know, the fact that they made it out with RNG, you know, one of the best teams in the world. You figured that they would have won more than one game against a minor region, but unfortunately, PGG's hopes and dreams crash and burn, and it's a big disappointment for that region because the investment in that region has just been massive. The Osh fans have been completely behind their team, shoeies all over the place, foot fungus in your mouth all over the place, and unfortunately that region is just gonna have to go home, you know, with their head in their hands trying to figure out what went wrong. LS, what went wrong with the minor region team? I almost made it.
Well, I mean, I think in general, right? No one expected OC to even make it past Unicorns of Love, right? In their original group. So that was pretty surprising. The fact that they took a game off Cloud9, they also, I mean, they had some really weird games in the tournament where it actually looked like reasonably close. And when you see stuff like this, you sort of just feel bad for the entire region. Now, I understand that like Pentanet dominates, I think, the entire region, right? Of pretty much all of OC, they just completely trash on it. So it's not representative of OCE, but at least there's a team that can come out. And I think that this will always be the case for pretty much any region or any country in anything. There's always going to be some people or like a team or something that can probably come out of the region and be moderately competitive. But they're obviously stunted by all the problems LCS has, like on steroids. You know, terrible infrastructure, everything. It's just so bad.
Ping, imports, you name it. PGG should have found the answer for all of the LCO, and they weren't able to. Dom, what's your take on this catastrophic failure of PGG to not make it out of groups?
Well, I don't know. I think it's pretty unfair because if you look at it, like every other every other team in the Rumble stage gets to play 2 games against OCE, but they don't get to play against OCE ever. So like, how the fuck do they have an even schedule to someone like, you know, like NA, for example, where NA gets to play against all the higher teams, and then they also have to play against OCE? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. So
yeah. Again, just scheduling issues abound. Who would have thunk it? Yeah. So Pentanet goes back to the Oceanic regions, not as heroes, but as wishing what could have been for a tournament that had so much promise for them, had the region wrapped around them. Let's talk about that other team, Cloud9. Cloud9 was there. They won a couple games. They beat a couple top teams, but you know, good for them. You know, they're able to take down RNG. They're able to take down the world champs. Just not able to get it done against Titans like PGG. The fact that they even took 1 game off of them is pretty impressive, don't you think?
I mean, I just don't know about Cloud9 because, like, to me, watching the entire tournament, like, you feel like there's so many instances of, like, chokes and nerves and things like that. And then when you hear, like, the responses from the players in interviews, it seems like the players don't see it the same way. Like, they believe that they have, like, I guess, a strong mental, and that the reason why they're losing some of these games is because of draft, or because, you know, like, one small thing goes wrong in the game and they lose it all. But to me, I just feel like this is just like the opposite of what a champion's mindset is. Like, so many teams have so many fucking excuses, man. Like, I just don't understand, like, why Cloud9 can simultaneously, like, be the underdog, and then, like, that being, like, a justification for why they lose to, like, Dom 1 2-0 in this stage. And, you know, like, why, like, obviously the second game verse Mad didn't really matter at all. Like, there was interview with Carzy where he said that, you know, like, half the team thought that, like, it was just going to be a fun, happy game, so to speak, and the other half of the team wanted to try hard and just beat NA. So, like, when I look at C9, somehow they can perform sometimes as underdogs versus top teams, but then when they're playing teams that are worse than them, it's like they play worse. They start, like, playing to the level of the teams that are bad. Like, if you look at the first game they played against Infinity Esports, like, that game they won it, but that's not a fucking good win. That's not what major region versus minor region should look like. And every single time that I see NA go to an international competition, it looks like there's, like, this massive victim complex, which I think isn't representative of, like, how far behind we are. Like, when I look at MSI, I don't think that MSI teams are playing on a level that's so inconceivably high that NA, like, can't do anything because of all the circumstances. It feels like individually the players are not playing to the level that is expected of them. I mean, Blabber's a 2-time MVP. Does he look like an MVP? People can say, oh, well, it's because he's playing against bad people. Bullshit. There's no chance that he is getting away with walking to a crab as Nidalee, level 3, flash smiting in front of an Udyr in NA, and the NA Udyr's just not able to fucking kill him. Like, that's just not realistic. Like, he's playing significantly worse in international competition than domestically. Even though the competition at international events is stiffer, it doesn't mean that like there's this much of a drop off, and he's just getting outclassed playing the way that he normally plays. Like, if you were to take the teams that are at MSI, you throw them in the LCS studio, you tell Blabber that it's like, oh, well, this is like TSM, like RNG is now TSM, and, you know, like Team Liquid is now Dom 1. Like, you tell them that these are these players, you'd see like 10 times the fucking performance. And the thing that bothers me is I don't think that the players internalize it as a choke, or like the players that aren't choking on the roster. Like, Fudge played an extremely good tournament, right? Vulcan played a pretty good tournament himself. I think Sven had his ups and downs, but he was fine. He played a fine tournament. He didn't play a bad tournament. I don't know if the team internalizes this as like, oh, this is like a mental problem more than an actual physical problem. Because if you look at this and you evaluate it as just a pure, like, well, what the fuck can we do? Our region sucks. We have ping issues, like all that. If that's what your takeaway is from this type of event, I feel like you've completely missed the point of what actually happened at MSI.
On the topic of Blabber, I mean, one of the things that I think is going on is his lanes are losing. So in NA, I mean, his lanes aren't losing, or they're not under pressure the way that they are in MSI. I mean, Perks is getting ass blasted every lane. You go into his
He got ass blasted a lot in NA. Like, he did get ass blasted in lane a lot in NA.
That's a good point, because I remember bringing that up and being like, oh, he's warming up. Oh, he's getting used to the team. And I was like, oh, he's making plays outside of lane, but in lane, not getting punished for the deficit he was picking up.
We can see it more in the pro view. I think what's going on, because MSI had pro view, right? LCS, LCK, all these other things, they never had pro view. MSI has pro view. Go on YouTube. You can see how bad he's playing. but also not even just in lane. I mean, you can see him in the team fights if you go into the Pro View, like the Orianna, where he doesn't shockwave, he just dies, but he also totally fucks up his ball. He just had a miserable tournament. Like he was barely better than Chaz in terms of like performance, and that's really, really sad. Like I mean, I think you already hit the nail on the head about Fudge. But yeah, I think Blabber, I don't know. Sven looked like Sven, when you watch his play, or even when you went into the Pro View as well, it looked like he was playing so that he wouldn't look bad in a way. And that always makes me worried when a player starts doing that, because it's almost like job security fucking thoughts or something like that. He was just so cautious in so many fucking things, right? I remember the 2v2 kill that was like super simple, but it got away from them.
The dive.
No, I agree with you. When well, I mean, everyone and their mother apparently just has totally different takes on fucking on draft, right? I think the players are even have totally different ideas amongst themselves, right? Because you have the Vulcan interview, and then you have stuff that like Fudge will say, or you'll have stuff that like Max Waldo will say publicly. Everyone's just divided. I mean, Cloud9, it's weird, but I feel like their interviews and then their gameplay is just NA embodied.
Yep.
Did anyone say themselves that they just played fucking bad? I don't
Exactly. But that's the thing. It's like it's such a defeatist mindset, because they're not actually that bad. Like Cloud9 is not that bad, and you see interviews, right? And the community sees like Humanoid go out in an interview and say, "Oh, we scrimmed against Cloud9, and they actually like probably deserve to get out. Like they're actually not as bad as like the results end up." And most people write that off as like, "Oh, well, I guess it was just unlucky." Then to me, that's a huge red flag. That's like, no, that just shows how much fucking worse they're playing when the pressure is on. They have all these things that clearly are things that are weighing on their mentality, where somehow they have the victim mindset when they're playing against an underdog, where it's like, oh, we're supposed to win, so we better not fuck up. And then like somehow when they play against teams that are better than them, they can't then have the underdog mindset where it's like, well, let's just play our fucking best and show what we're made of and just like play at a consistent level, and they have to actually beat us. It doesn't feel like they make teams sweat to beat them. They just roll over and fucking die in some games, or they'll just like try to just do nothing and get a victory over OCE. When you watch every other game versus OCE versus Pentanet in this entire group stage, the team is shitting down PGG's throat. They are literally opening it up and shitting down their throat. They're like, no, you guys are OCE players. We'll take fights that are 3v4s. We're just gonna outplay you because we're better players. Whereas like when you hear Cloud9 after that game, they're like, yeah, you know, like, I mean, look at our draft. Like, how could we win? We gave them fucking Udyr, and then they got Senna Tom. We just thought they didn't play Senna Tom. How many fucking horrible drafts has RNG played in this tournament? RNG literally gets out-drafted almost every fucking game. And they get out-drafted by, like, Dom1 and shit. And then they go into the game, and they just play their best and beat them because individually they play better in certain situations, or they play situations as a team better. The game isn't just like, oh, Pentanet drafted something and it's unbeatable. Do you know how many mistakes Pentanet is making in game with their draft? They're not executing their draft at such a high level that like you can't beat them. Their champions can beat Pentanet's champions if they play on a higher level, but they're just not playing to that level. They're literally just scared of fucking up and losing, and they have that defeatist mindset, that like victim mentality, and then they go into the game, they lose, and then they just always have something to blame. Oh, it's drafted. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, you can't tell me that Pentanet and OC as a region is closer to NA in this game than Dom1 is to RNG. So you're telling me that there's a bigger gap between RNG players and Dom1 players than there is between North American players and OC players after they have no region and their whole region's been fucking gutted. They have no league that they're even playing in for half of it. They have no coaches. They have horrible like environments to scrim in. There's no way that you can make this argument to me and logically be like, all right, well, you know, RNG's just that far ahead of Dom1. And if they are that far ahead of Dom1, well then all your fucking excuses about a region being ahead and there being like nothing you can do, it's like, oh well, there's like, then Dom1 should just never, then that completely refutes the argument that Dom1 was so good that no one could ever catch up to them, right? Like teams catch up and surpass people all the fucking time. But in NA, we just will always end up being behind because of all the excuses we have for our region. Like PCS has way more excuses than us. OC has way more excuses than us. So I hate seeing like everything be about, oh, well, you know, we didn't have like good drafts this tournament. We had different ideas in drafts. It's like, okay, who gives a fuck about the draft? Like you load in with the champions, at least play your drafts well. They're not playing their drafts well.
I saw you licking your lips and wanting to get in there, LS.
I heard Dom say that OC has no coaches, so I just wanted, you know, Dom Nero's coming for you, you know.
Okay.
I think again. I watched Thorin actually. Thorin's video with Doublelift was pretty good on the spot, or about Doublelift's kind of bringing up some of the excuses that he brought up. It was hey, this is just having the grit and the mentality when the lights are on, when the pressure's on, to do it, and not being able to do it in this case. And I had the chance to chat with Darshan about it during MSI, and he said it sounds like such a simple thing. It is play your game. Don't bend to their will, have them bend to yours. And when a team is able to do that, like he has been able to in his career in the past, that's when they found success. And like you said, every team made Pentanet do that. And I tune in and I'm like, whoa, this Gold League's pretty close here between Cloud9 and Pentanet. What the fuck's going on in 12 minutes, 15 minutes? Why aren't we up like 3,000 to 5,000 gold like all the other teams? And it's just because they're playing to not make mistakes. You talk about it all the time in traditional sports or anything competitive. And if you're not there trying to punish them and instead not make mistakes yourself, at some point they're going to ask a question you're not prepared to answer. And that's happened multiple times here for Cloud9. And I think the most frustrating part is the was it Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of thing, where it's like they can play like that to the big teams, but they cannot do it to the small teams. And if they could just keep that form, it's so frustrating because you've seen the heights that they can reach.
But like even then, like, doesn't that just show you that it's a mentality issue and not a gameplay issue? If they are like in the right headspace and they play to the best of their ability, they can beat anyone in the tournament. Okay, so then why can't you just consistently beat the teams that are like worse than you, or like why can't you at least split games with teams that are relatively even? It makes no sense to me that this is like the way that we go. And the thing that I guess bothers me is like when I used to watch North American League of Legends, I think that we were even further behind. If you think about like season 4, before the Korean exodus, before the imports, think about how far ahead Korea actually was. Like LCK was potentially like 8 out of the 10 best teams in the world or something. It's kind of like what LPL is now, where the league was so far ahead of everyone else. But somehow, when NA would go to these events, they would play at least to their own level. So when you'd see high, sneaky, Meteos, balls like this roster, they're massively outmatched. They're outmatched across the board. If you think about the league they competed in like, I was in that league, right? Literally, like 5 of the teams in the region, 6 of the teams in the region are bad. Wait, what did you say?
No, don't worry about it, guy.
Yeah, I mean, we had a coach over there for one of the teams over at CLG that was also in the region at that time as well. So
the point is, when you used to watch, it was like, well, they're just better. Like Cloud9 did what they could, and you'd see them try to win the game. They'd like fight. There'd be some grit there, and they would really go in trying to put in their best performance, and they would play their best. And Korea was just better, and Korea would win. I'm completely fine with results like that if that's actually the case. But the level at MSI is not so far removed. Like, how much have we improved since then as a region, right? Like, how much better infrastructure are there? We have a ton of imports. We have coaching staffs. We definitely have things that can be advantages. Like, Korea has been depleted of their fucking talent, man. Like, their players have went all over the fucking world. They're still putting together teams. And then we also have this mentality. Go for it. I have like fucking long rants, bro. I'm gonna rant this whole show.
On the Korea part. Korea has sort of, I mean, if you go through the forums or whatnot, Arnold, the CEO of Genji, was in my chat, I think like a week ago, and talking about it. This is the first year ever where Korea is having difficulty finding new talent. This is the first time ever. So that's actually really fucking worrying, because before you have lots and lots of people going through systems and all this other stuff, right? There's no one new. That's really fucking weird. That's also very strange, because the player base keeps growing in Korea, and like the PC bang rate is still, I think it's above 50% still. So the fact that there's no one new cycling through, I think is extremely fucking worrisome.
But I mean, even if there isn't people that are obvious, I feel like just the way Korea is and just the mentality and the approach is like people will just show up. Like, how many people actually knew how good Griffin and Damwon realistically were going to be. Of course, they were like there, they were on the scene, like people saw them in solo queue, but there's still people in solo queue that you'll see and you'll be like, oh, who the fuck is this guy? Oh, he's just like some one trick who's 1 KLP, like that plays Ari, you know, he can only play that champion. And then you see like how the players transform and develop, and it's like Showmaker went from being like a Katarina main in Korean solo queue to being just like top 2 mid laner in the entire fucking world quickly. And they don't get any of the excuses that NA gets, right? Like, NA, we're still contextualizing Blabber as a fucking young player. He's like, oh, he's young, he's talented, he needs more international experience. Meanwhile, Wei's mother literally births him backstage at MSI. He's thrown onto the stage as a pure fucking fetus, 18 years old, never seen. He's like, this is my first time being outside of my country. And then he's just supposed to be the best jungler in the world. He's supposed to just compete and then beat Canyon in the same fucking tournament, where we're just like, oh, well, it's like baby steps. You gotta like wait. How many excuses can you fucking put together for all these teams, man? Wei's first international event, probably Gala's first international event too, I would assume. Yeah, so that's their first international event. Probably Cryan's first international event as well. Jiaohu lane swapped this same season. They also don't have their coach at MSI. There's so much shit that you could just like use as an excuse, but it's like that's not accepted in Korea and Chinese culture. It's like you're just expected to go out there and perform. And like, if you don't perform, then you just get flamed. Whereas like here, we're just like waiting to like coddle everyone as they come back. It's like, you know what? It's okay. It's okay. You know, it's just an NA thing. You know, you just beat RNG and then lose to Pentana in the same day. Like what's more NA than that? Any NA memes, guys? It's like, for me,
needs 4 more MVPs. So
yeah,
you know,
okay,
before we can call them experience.
Doggo, River, these you know, River's journey through the PCS and LJL. He came from Japan as well as a Korean player and forged his own path. I think it's a fantastic story. But to Dom's point, it's yeah. I mean, everyone else has been able to perform and produce. And going back to your point about was it Showmaker as the Katarina one trick originally?
Yeah, essentially, yeah, Katarina main.
Katarina main. We have that example. It was Cat evolved, right? Jackie Boy. He was evolved on TSM's roster. Had aspirations to go pro. I got to work with him over at Radiance a little bit.
How are the e-girls scouting talent better than the pro teams? That's what I'm wondering. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like he actually got poached from TSM.
I mean, I think we're gonna probably talk about this maybe at some point in this episode, right? Is how is scouting being done, right? I mean, we did talk about it in a previous episode, but there was that tweet chain tirade that I got involved in a few days ago, right?
The amateur circuit,
that the results that are happening, not just now, but over, you know, the course of this year, as well as like other stuff that's happening, is akin to RNG. And we see it in ERLs.
RNG as in random number.
Yeah, as in you would expect to see these results if it was actually random and not cherry picked.
Yes.
These are the type of results that you would actually expect to see. And I likened to how Cloud9 Academy is a stacked deck. It's a stacked deck of the best players, and I talked about this with Nemesis on stream. That the best orgs don't coincidentally always scout the best players. What ends up happening is that the players who are actually really fucking good in solo queue, and they know that they're really good in solo queue, they're not going to join a bottom team. Of course not. They're going to hold out for the top org to fucking come to them. And Nemesis talked about his experience, about how he intentionally did this with Fnatic. He waited for one of the top LEC teams. I mentioned it about T1. I think this is actually where I got the comment from the Gen G CEO about the talent in Korea, like, starting to dry up. T1 is known for their rookies, right? Gumiushi, now fucking owner, is coming up. You know, Zeus
Kana
is another one. Kana, when he was on the rise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Closer, another one, right? So what happens is when you're a 1000 LP Korean player, or you're a 700, 800 Challenger LP Korean player, and Fred at Breon's Academy or Sandbox's Academy reaches out to you, if you really know your worth, no, you're just gonna hold out, because eventually fucking Big Daddy T1 is gonna eventually message you, or you're gonna message Big Daddy T1 because you know that you're better than all the other talents, right? Like, it's just common fucking sense, right? So what ends up happening is Cloud9 is sort of a stacked deck. They have King, they have Isles from OCE, right? They have Schernfire, who's LCS basically level, right? And then you have Copy in mid, who's doing really, really, really well as well. So Cloud9 Academy is a stacked deck. Cloud9 Academy still lost. in the end. Now, they lost to another team that was losing to another team at one point, right? And it was sort of going back and forth. But you would expect Cloud9 Academy to win, right? Everyone else is a little bit more weird. And then again, you can liken it to RNG. And it was really weird that they claimed that you wouldn't say this about ERL, but yes, you fucking would. Of course you would. You look at our ERL, it's very akin to RNG. It doesn't make any sense. What are these people talking about? It's super akin to RNG.
Yeah. I think then the goal is still to be able to, at least with ERL and what we've seen out of the European player base, is that you're still getting stars or high caliber players coming out of it, right? For NA, you just haven't had that many NA native rookies step up. Like, look at the best rookie that we've been talking about. It's Fudge, who's from Osh, not from NA. And I think it's a problem that's been coming up.
Okay, so I don't know about you, Dom. I had Fudge top 2 before Spring started, right? I said Fudge is maybe worse than Alfari right now. I mean, the video's out there. I think it's on YouTube somewhere. I said maybe Fudge is worse than Alfari right now, but by the end of spring, he'll be better than Alfari.
You
right?
did say that. I remember that. I remember that because I was like, you're fucking nuts, dude. You're nuts.
And everyone flamed me, but the way that you can tell Fudge is better than Alfari is, or that he has the potential to be, is you listen to him fucking talk on streams, because it's a personality trait, right? It's an open-mindedness, a willingness to test virtually anything, regardless of how stupid it sounds, and then perspective on things, right? But then you go into his pro view and you watch his mechanics. Now, this is the thing that most people can't do because they don't know what good mechanics look like, but then also they don't know the alternatives that existed when a trade actually happens. They can only rely on results. So they have to wait until the sequence ends to try to make a conclusion if it's good or bad.
Oh,
right?
that sounds like every
really
single
big
Twitch
problem.
chatter with predictions. Like, you make a prediction, you give your entire analysis, instead of being able to, for them to be able to like discern what is good and bad analysis based off like what logically applies and what actually occurs. They just look at the result and they're like, yeah, you were wrong, dumbass.
So the thing is like, let's say that there's a fucking let's say there's like a LeBlanc in mid lane, right? And she goes for a random trade against the opponent, okay? But the trade shouldn't work if the opponent reacts appropriately, right? But the opponent doesn't react correctly, and the LeBlanc wins out on the trade. Do you say that the LeBlanc's a good player, or do you say the opponent's really bad? Well, you have to measure it, but first you also have to know that the alternative exists. That actually the LeBlanc going for the trade is a mistake in the first place if the opponent responds, right? You have to know like further details about like lane phase manipulation. What's going to happen with the waves? What's the trade pattern? How does this unfold? Most people can't do that. But the amount of people... So when Fudge was losing in the Cloud9 games, there were some instances that were a byproduct of his own play, right? But there was a lot of instances that wasn't, but he was being flamed for it, right? It's an easy scapegoat, easy target because he's a new player, right? But also the amount of people that listed him really, 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 really low that were on the analyst desk.
Well, I think that it's fair if you look at his... I think that it's fair if you look at his...
Huh?
I mean, I think it's just about like what perspective. Like, do you look at his potential or do you look at his rating right then? Like, if you're asked like how good is Fudge after lock-in tournament, and you're forced to make a tier list, like you can't put him top 2 just because like he has the potential to be top 2, in my opinion. You have to like analyze like how good he is currently playing.
You don't think so?
Well, I mean,
when they made that, it was Emily and Alarum that had him rated lower, and then Freak had him rated second. Yeah, second. At that time. But I see Dom's point. I see both points here, right? And one thing to your point earlier, LS, about understanding trades and understanding the optimal trade pattern, understanding, hey, because this didn't happen doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, is an issue. Right. I think what people misconstrue that argument as is like, no one's ever going to play perfectly every time. It's like, yeah. That's the beauty of the game, right? But if we still don't know that that doesn't exist, that possibility doesn't exist, then we're still not like reaching that. We'll never reach that.
Well, I mean, the thing that I'll say about that is like people think that like perfect is like some unattainable thing, and maybe in terms of like long term, it's not possible to play perfectly all the time, but it is possible to play situations perfectly. especially on like mechanically simple champs. Like it is very easy to play multiple situations perfectly. So I hate when people use that argument from micro things, because if it's like, if I'm playing like fucking Udyr versus whatever, if I'm playing Udyr versus Blabbers Nidalee, and we're at the crab, right? I'm level 4, he's level 3, and he flash smites the crab, and then I just go on him and kill him. Like, I played the situation perfectly. You know, like there's nothing else that you could do in that. So like, I feel like perfect play is achievable in like small areas. It's just hard to like have perfect play all the time in every situation that's going to occur in an entire game.
Let's reel it back in just a little bit so that we can start locking in our move forward points for Cloud9 and the region here, because I think we've identified some of the things that went wrong, some of the reactions from players and from fans, from analysts that we liked and didn't like. What did they need to do to fix it, and that is attainable, right? Because there was actually a thread that came out recently from my former employer, Hunter, who was the head of Golden Guardians. That came out and outlined, you know, hey, unless this is a huge effort from all the teams and Riot Central, not even like Riot NA, Riot Central, North America is not going to fix their infrastructure for ping, which is not going to fix their infrastructure for practice, which is not going to fix the wait times necessary to play solo queue. So even after practice, you're trying to scrim and you have a 40-minute queue time. Like, there's a limit for everything.
It's bullshit. It's like people are acting like NA teams are playing to their absolute limit, and it's just the circumstances are holding them back, which I don't agree with at all. Like, I don't think that this is the best result you can possibly have given the situation. Yeah, it's a suboptimal situation, but if you're a fucking champion, you find out ways to figure out what can you do with your time to make it more useful. If solo queue practice isn't as useful, I mean, they literally have access to the tournament realm. They can do the in-houses like they were doing before. They have scrims that they do on that tournament realm. They have all the footage and all the ways that they can actually obtain this. When they go internationally, they get the benefit. Like, obviously Iceland is specific, but when they go internationally, for example, to China, they get to play for a month on like the super server, right? Like, they have all these alternatives to what's happening, and it's such like a cop-out excuse because they're not addressing the main problem. And this is like what I feel like is the biggest problem with North America, is every single time a failure happens, instead of like internalizing it, accepting responsibility, accepting that you fucking suck, and then growing from it, like, it's always this like, oh, well, we did the best we could given all of these circumstances. And it's like a really easy way to deflect and not accept the results. And it's fucking hard to do. I'm not saying this is easy to do or that I could do it or anything, because I feel like this is literally what always happens is whenever you try to make a statement like this, people just turn it on you. It's like, well, you didn't do that. You didn't win worlds. So then you can't fucking talk about you don't have to like be a genius to be able to see other examples of people in other esports or in other sports do these types of things and succeed. Like, not everyone is just gifted all the talents and is put in the optimal situation and then they're able to succeed. How many excuses does Dom1 have? They literally were like in some broken down team house in Korea, 5 people in a room. They didn't have like good fucking coaching staff. They didn't have good infrastructure. They didn't have meals prepped for them and like all this shit. They grinded from the bottom and then rose all the way to the top of LCK from that suboptimal circumstance.
I mean, what about Rox Tigers playing at a PC bong?
Yeah.
Everything. And there's so many different things. So like the biggest thing that I hate about this is I feel like the players would rather say that they're fucking bad than they fucking underperformed. That's their mentality. It's easier for them to be like, yeah, we're just worse than the other teams. And they just internalize and they're like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Instead of addressing what's actually going on, which is a choke. It is an underperformance. So for me, like, unless they're able to accept, hey, our mental is weak. When we went to this competition, we kind of collapsed mentally. How do we address this? Then you can target it and you can work on that problem. It's not something that it's like, I would much rather be a choker than somebody that was completely not talented and never was able to fucking win. It's so much better to have the problem of choking because there's science for this. This is a problem. This is something that people have been doing for years. This is something outside of esports. It's not like choking was first invented in esports. We have professional sports. We have sports psychologists. We have backgrounds in how to overcome those types of difficulty. Yeah, of course, not even sports.
Business?
But like the whole point is there are systems in place and ways you can improve on your flaws if you're honest about what your flaws are. But I feel like the problem with Cloud9 is, at least publicly, they're not honest with what their problems actually are at this event.
Yeah, maybe it is publicly, but hopefully the LCS leaders and clear number one, you know, best team, the team that should be one of the best teams in North America, will have taken this experience, learned a lot. You know me, I'm the optimist, but we'll see what the summer season has in store for Cloud9. Looking forward to MSI. Before we dive into the matchups, one, Ashley Kang, friend, colleague, fantastic reporter, does a lot of the videos and all the videos over at Horizon, asked a very simple and straightforward question that led to a big talking point. Damwon Kia is the #1 team in the tournament. Why are they playing second and have to play back-to-back best of fives? Isn't that something? And so it led to this rule book inquiry in the English to the Korean rule book where there was translations, and it led to this answer that was like, hey, due to logistics for the domestic leagues, we went with the schedule. And that was an interesting talking point, to the point where today in the press conference, for those of you that didn't get to watch it, Como was asked that question, hey, how do you feel about the scheduling thing? And he said, hey, we were informed. Long pause. Let me see if I'll retweet the long pause later that Ashley cut out. He said, hey, we were informed about Riot's decision, and we expressed that we hope that it doesn't happen again. I wanted to get your thought here, LS, on like, hey, what's this scheduling thing where it feels like the #1 team, the winning team that should be given advantage as we go to the finals, is being put in a tougher position?
I mean, I've always held that, well,
I was going to say, is it better to have them play second? Like, it seems like the answer is no, but is it better to have them play second so they can watch them?
I am not, okay, this is going to sound really bad. I'm not going to comment on this matter because my honest thoughts could lead to me being attacked by Korean fans. Gotcha.
Cool. All right. Dom, thoughts?
I mean, I think it like matters, but I'm not sure to what degree. Like, I think it does actually matter, but is it going to win or lose you the tournament if you're actually the better team? Like, I'm not sure about that. And then the other thing is like, yeah, I mean, RNG, you could say that like RNG, if they come out, could have an advantage, or PSG, if they come out, could have an advantage. But like, that's only assuming that Damwon also makes the final. And then you have to understand, like, because it's all within a weekend like this, it's very hard to actually be able to do much like physical prep. Like, it's not like RNG is going to be like, oh shit, like, now we've had this extra day where like they don't actually have the extra day because they have to wait for Damwon to play, and then if Damwon wins, then they can like go into it heavily. But they're not going to be able to like test strategies. It's not like they have like an academy team on deck. Like they pretty much just have to like watch things, have team discussion, come in with like a general game plan, and then proceed. So I definitely think it matters. I'm not sure about what degree to what degree. I don't think it's going to determine who wins and loses the tournament.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't. But I mean, what to me was interesting was the fact that it felt like it caught Riot off guard, that it wasn't important, and then it just turned into this thing, and we followed along, and it doesn't seem like Damwon.
I do want to say something. I think no one's highlighted this. I've read all the comments. It should set precedent, by the way, that Riot's belief system that there is an advantage to playing the day before the finals or like not. You know what I mean? The whole argument about why there's no championship finals. Right? In that the winner's bracket finals team can lose.
Like reset.
Right, yeah. There's no reset, right? Is the argument that the team has to play the day before so that they have less practice and less prep time, right? That's the actual argument. However, this change of cycle actually should set precedent that Riot clearly doesn't actually believe that. They can't, right?
Well, they might, because they didn't. I don't think there was an answer specifically on, hey, this is the advantage. I believe the answer that they gave was logistically based on all the teams' regional leagues. It was a logistics decision, not a competitive advantage decision. That's what I think.
Book the flight a few days later, right? I mean, in reality.
I agree.
You could.
I agree.
I completely. So I don't buy that. I mean, how much more expensive is it?
I don't even think it's expensive. I think it was just Riot trying to do something for the best of leagues that teams didn't. They're like, we didn't ask for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was one that I felt like popped up in terms of like conversations around this scheduling thing, so we can hop on in to the matches themselves, where Damwon, our #1 seed after RNG dropped a couple games, to Mad Lions and to Cloud9. Didn't actually beat RNG, right? Damwon lost to them 2-0 in the Rumble stage. But they get the number 1 pick, and they decide that our Western friends, the only Western hope left in the tournament, Mad Lions, are the weaker team here. Do you agree with this, Dom?
I mean, yeah, I think at this tournament they're playing at a lower level than PSG. It's hard to know how good Mad Lions really is, because I feel like they're kind of hit and miss, especially like within their own draft. Do you just assume they can't play Rumble because they had bad Rumble games, but then also they had good Rumble games? But I would say that PSG looks like the better team, like optically at least. And moreover, I think from Damwon's personal experience, they probably just felt like playing against PSG was tougher than playing against Mad, which probably factors into it the most.
LS?
I mean, I think one of my theories is that Mad are noticeably pretty bad in longer, like, stable games, right? Which is actually what Damwon generally prefers, right? So maybe that could be their perception. Because I mean, if you watch Mad Lions in almost any of the games that they played this tournament, where games go longer, or they're like mid-rangey plus team compositions, etc., they're a lot weaker, right? And I feel like that's where Damwon just really enjoys playing. So it might just be like a stylistic thing. I don't know. But then again, what I referenced in like the last episode of Facecheck is that PSG's results in scrims are apparently extremely good against everyone, even if the results didn't align with that.
But how? Like, they play in a region that's like underfunded. They have to play on 60 ping if they want to play on KR, like a Chinese server. They have no coach there. They actually have their coach there. What they don't have is one of their fucking players is not there. So like, I mean, I would just say, like, how are they able to compete? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
They have their what should be their new player. Like, obviously I haven't seen enough of PCS to be like, yeah, they should sign Dago. This seems great. But that would be pretty fun to watch for them. Let's play devil's advocate here for our friends of Facecheck now that LS has turned to the dark side. All right. How do our friends in the West, Mad Lions, find a way to beat the reigning world champions? LS?
Sorry, I didn't have notification. I just heard a beep. Can you repeat that? Sorry. You heard that? Yeah, you heard that too. Yeah, sorry.
How do Mad Lions defeat the reigning world champs, Damwon? If there's a way. Like, who do you tackle?
Well, I mean, I think Damwon are horrendous at drafting in general, right? But the problem for Mad is, like, I feel like they're horrendous at playing the type of team compositions. No. I think they're horrendous at playing the type of team compositions.
It was funny when it was shortened. They're horrendous at playing.
Yeah,
like,
I put that out of context, you know. That Damwon are, like, genuinely vulnerable to. I don't think they're gonna beat them in a fist fight. So I'm not totally. I mean, maybe there will be, like, unorthodox picks, right? Because I don't expect anything strange or non-meta out of any of the other three teams. But maybe Mad Lions could actually do something unorthodox, right? I mean, we saw them pull out Kog'Maw, right? In mid. Or I guess that's sort of a later style I mean, he is a later style champion, right? I think things of that nature would probably just be their best chance. But in a best of 5, it's just so hard to imagine getting an edge that many games in a row. And then closing.
Look, this is what you do. You set up a fucking tent bot lane, because Damwon's bot lane can't actually lane. They really
is having go. Sorry.
Barrel's a sprinter, and Ghost is like it feels like an ego thing. I swear Gala has just mind gamed this entire tournament. Like, we came in with the mentality of like, oh, so like there's a lot of like hyper scaling AD carries that are really good on this patch, right? Like Kog'Maw, Jinx still viable,
Tristana.
Senna is broken. There's a lot of, and then Kai'Sa is just a Gala champion. Like, he was just the best Kai'Sa in LPL, probably the best Kai'Sa in the world, right? And then because they see him playing Kai'Sa on such like a high level, they're all like, this is Gala, this is my champion. And they start playing it. It's like, bro, that's not a Gala Kai'Sa. That's a fucking ghost Kai'Sa. No one wants to see a ghost Kai'Sa. We want to see a ghost Jhin. We want to see a ghost Varus. We want to see a ghost Ashe. We just want to see the stable, like, utility champions out of Ghost. Like, you don't have to be the best AD carry in the tournament to win. Frankly, you've never had to be the best in your role to win. So, like, what changed now? Like, literally just play your own style if you're Damwon. And if you're Mad Lions, just I think they just have to keep on getting counter picks, hope that they can get Barrow to keep on preferring Nautilus like he has been, and then you play Leona into it, another one of Kaiser's good champions, positive lane matchup, play it with a matchup that they're comfortable in that makes sense, and try to just abuse the bot lane.
There it is. So Western fans, our European fans that we love and adore, there's your win condition. Hope that you can use the bot lane and work your way through that, get enough counter picks that you can do that 3 times, not just once. In these best of ones or double round robins, not just twice, 3 times. Let's move on over to the opposite side here. RNG and PSG. PSG has been just a fun team to watch. Like, they've just been fun to watch. They've been a great story. Maple, one of the old guys in League of Legends with Doggo, who's just a shy, kind boy. In the interviews, he said, we heard that Unified was sick. My manager called me up and said, hey, just get ready just in case. And then bam, there's the loan. And now he's put in the spotlight. And other than that very first game in play-ins, or whatever that stage was called, he's looked like someone that can hang their hat on and a legit carry for the squad. RNG, they've got the easy group and did exactly what everyone wanted to see to the easy group. People were complaining like, man, it's tough to watch the Unicorns of Love and Penta. I was like, no, dude, this is sick. This is sick, seeing a team that's supposed to shit on a team. We don't get to see that a lot over in the LCS. And then they run into a couple of road bumps lately. Cryan's had a bit of an issue a couple times. I had an interview with Cryan, and I didn't run it because I was like, man, he's so upset that he lost. They went 1-1 today. They lost to Cloud9. That like it wasn't a great interview, and I didn't want to put that out there for him. So like RNG kind of maybe in this weird state. Maybe they had time to reset, but RNG, PSG, LS, who do you got? And how do you see these two teams matching up?
Hold on, dGon, I gotta comment on something you said. Do we look? Do all of us here think CLG would get top 3 in OC?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, there's
New CLG? New CLG? I don't know. Pentanet, man. They're just a fucking powerhouse.
They get top 3.
Avant? Is Avant still a team out there? Order? Dire Wolves? Legacy? Are you kidding me? Bombers?
I mean, somehow
are you kidding me?
A team like CLG would go to OC and then have a bunch of excuses as to why. Well, like, of course we can't beat these teams now because we're playing on OC ping versus only OC teams. We're isolated. We can only scrim versus OC teams. So of course we got worse.
Yeah, we played against we played against only imports in OSH. Go ahead, LS. Like, please, before I get in trouble. I think CLG would be top 3.
CLG would be super big. No, I mean, with the remaining, the remaining matches in MSI, I mean, everything's brewing up, right? RNG versus Damwon. That's what the final expectation is, in general, right? Mm-hmm. I think RNG probably just takes the entire event. So, I mean, as it looks right now, I think Damwon look really, really, really bad. I think Damwon draft really, 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 really bad. I think Barrel
RNG's draft is really bad too, though. RNG is like trolling themselves.
RNG draft pretty bad too, but I mean, I think it doesn't matter, right? When you both are fucking drafting the same exact thing, I think RNG are probably just better equipped to win, right? So, I don't know. I also don't know what this means for Damwon because it's probably going to really shake them. I mean, we can also talk about how Khan is like, obviously, I mean, he had that one game against Cloud9. I mean, I guess he's had some other games, but Khan's not Nuggery. And I think it's really showing throughout LCK Spring. It's showing here in MSI. I mean, Damwon is just weaker in every single sense because of the loss of Nuggery. But then also the bot lane, which used to be like a reliable pillar. Barrel used to just be able to run around the map and like do other things because you had Showmaker, Canyon, Nuggery, right? Probably the strongest top side in the world. And then they could just play through that. Showmaker's under a lot more pressure now.
He's been performing though.
Yeah, I mean Showmaker's, he's pretty nuts.
Yeah, Showmaker's really fucking good. But I like seeing that. I like seeing players that are able to like at least show what they're made of when like the pressure is on and when things are not optimal. Like obviously Dom1 has a lot going wrong for them, but the fact that like Showmaker's been able to show up like every fucking game for the most part, I think is something that's like really respectable. And I love seeing that in a player, even if they don't fucking win. I think that the showing here has made me respect him like even more as a player. I mean, I already had a lot of respect for him, but now I have even more respect for him after watching this event, because it just shows that like he's just a champion, you know, like he's one of the driving forces behind that championship. Like if I were to think about because the thing about Dom1 is they're also not a stereotypical Korean team in terms of like personality, right? Like when you listen to Showmaker interviews or you like watch translated interviews, he's got that like winner's edge, you know? He's got that like championship, like you can just tell that he thinks he's better than everyone else, which I love. I love seeing that in a fucking player, because for him, in his case, it's like, yeah, dude, it might be true. Like, I mean, at worst, you're like the second best mid in the world, you know? At best, you're the best mid in the world. So for me, I really respect like his drive and his championship edge, and I feel like he's the guy to really look for, you know. Even if Beryl and Ghost underperformed in Rumble stage, if they pick it up a bit, I feel like Showmaker's going to show up and Dom1 still have a chance of winning. I feel like it's really weird though, because I mean Dom1 and RNG both have been drafting horribly. I honestly think RNG's drafts have been somehow even worse than Dom1. Why is everyone saying Chovy in the chat?
Chovy number one, man. The Church of Chovy has shown up, and the last disciple of the Church of Chovy has shown up as well.
Yeah. I mean, Alice is looking like a fucking cult leader with the hood on. The Church of Chovy cult leader now.
As soon as you said, he's the best or second best, hood up, church show up, congregation is in service. But yeah. Dom, your point. Just smacked myself with the hoodie. Your point. Showmaker, one of the best, has the championship edge and has led this team to victory. Right? That was kind of.
He's got the mental. I feel like he's got the mental game like in check. You know, like he shows up every single match with something to prove, and I respect that. Obviously, in LCK, he had some like pretty bad games that I watched, but I mean, I attributed that more to like his injury and like the fact that, you know, his team changed, and then also Dom1 kind of have that scaling thing to me, where I feel like there was such a lock-in to win the entire like LCK that they kind of want to be peaking at the right times, you know, like, so I'll give teams like that are championship teams like a break of like, you don't have to impress me every fucking game because you've got it done when it matters. So it's like, are you going to peak going into Worlds, you know, when the time is right? I feel like RNG is just scary though. Like it's really weird to see how they play, because when they're playing their best, they're a level higher than every other team at this tournament in terms of like coordination, like fine mechanics, the synergy between players. I'm like, I know synergy is an overused word, but you can just tell that they like have a similar idea in how they want to approach situations, and they execute on it together, which is nice to watch. But yeah, I mean, they like ego draft a fucking ton. Like you can tell that in draft their mentality is like, oh yeah, we can give that guy this champion. Like, oh, that guy's not that great on that champion. Like, we can give him Rumble and ban Udyr and Morgana, and I'll just play Olaf into. No, you can't play Olaf into fucking Canyon's Udyr again. Like, you won that one game. Don't pick Olaf again into fucking Canyon's Udyr. I don't care how clean you are with your stride breaker, dodging every skill shot. I just feel like RNG, there's so many times, and then they drafted TF a bunch of times, which like TF is okay. It's not
so
great.
I researched that. Like Cryan's played that like a handful of times in the LPL. So like
it was one of their strategies.
So
but, like,
I didn't feel like that was bad. Like I was like, okay, well they've done it before. They're trying something out in a stage that they know they're gonna progress in. But
for me, it's more like like they played like you can play like the Olaf TF comps and stuff like that and play around side lanes. Like that's a viable option. I just don't want that to be something that they're defaulting to in a best of 5. I feel like they're good enough standard on the shit that's actually strong, where they don't need to like randomly be trying to play like these really like hard to execute comps where they just aren't able to like fight the way that they want. Like I feel like if they just play fights, if they play comps with better team fights and they show up to objectives, I don't think any team in the world is beating them at this event. So
well, there you have it. I think the key word for this tournament so far, it was actually some, I would say watered down. Like when LS takes an analysis, watered down analysis from LS to make it for everyone else. The key word that I was picking up in interviews as well was explosive. Teams were surprised at the top teams being explosive. And you called Damwon that. They weren't aggressive, they were explosive. But,
were they explosive?
Yeah, I think so. Because they're losing, all of a sudden, blam! And now there's like a 5,000 gold lead. Like that shit happened multiple times in their games. And it was fun to watch. It is the same thing with RNG. They're explosive, but also aggressive.
And I mean, maybe I would have to rewatch the games. Like, my interpretation was not that Domon was explosive though. When I watched them, I feel like they're just like consistent and like they scale well, and then they team fight well later on. But I don't feel like they're explosive in the same sense that like, I don't know, like half the Chinese teams are. Like, it feels like they're way more like disciplined and like, yeah. Not really explosive.
Well, to your scale well point, it was like they're losing until that moment when that fight where the scaling turns on. That to me is the very cool aggressive switch that RNG also has, but they're willing to also try to do it multiple times. Whereas Damwon has like, this is the timer and this is the fight, and blam, like, Ghost and Beryl have been running around like idiots and are losing, and all of a sudden they're in the right spot in the right place doing the damage, as well as Showmaker and Canyon setting everyone up, and Khan's there, right? And it's just a switch. Like, to me, that's what I thought explosive meant. But maybe you're right as well, Dom. Okay, so seems like we got Damwon, RNG in the finals here. What do we got for predictions for these semifinals? Then we'll just do quick predictions for the finals because we're going to wrap it up here soon. Damwon Mad Lions. Dom?
Smells like a 3-0 to me.
3-0. No doubt.
All right. 3-0s. I think I got a 3-1. I feel, I'm not brave to call the 3-0. And RNG PSG?
I think it's probably going to be a 3-0 as well. Maybe like 3-1 like could happen because RNG just drafts so weird. Like, feels like if RNG draft normally and like play things that they're good at, then sure, they 3-0. But I feel like they're going to just randomly hard grief one of the drafts because it's happened so frequently in this tournament.
LS?
I think, I agree with Dom. 3-0, 3-0, and then final, I don't. What's the coin flip, isn't it?
Oh man, what if it's just a 3-0, 3-0, 3-0? Just 9 games, all right.
That would be, you know what? That'd be
logistically, that works out great for Riot Games.
Yep. And then everyone can, it's fine. Then it's a 9-0, There you go. Cloud9 lives on.
LS, you first. What do you got for cheese?
For what?
That was a good one. Cloud9 lives on. 3-0, 3-0, 3-0. Cloud9 lives on. Who you got for the finals and score?
Well, that's what I genuinely have no idea at this point in time. I mean, if we were going off of just like what we last saw, right? I would say it's probably 3-0, 3-1 for RNG.
All right. We'll get updated predictions after the semifinals. Dom?
I think that if RNG plays Dom1, I think it'll probably be a 3-0. I think that RNG's, I don't know. I feel like RNG just stylistically is good against Dom1 because Dom1 never gets like the team fight without getting pressured that they want. Whereas like RNG, when they have an advantage, they're so good about like actually pressuring you for that advantage. Like, I think their Barons are the cleanest in the entire tournament. They just walk the Baron. They know when they can tank it, know who has to flank. Like, you can tell it's super practice. They're going to put Damwon in situations that are just not easy wins, where I feel like other teams end up like giving Damwon an edge where like Damwon can recognize, oh shit, they're fucking inting here, and then Damwon will just shit on your face. But like, I don't think that RNG really does that much. So I think if RNG makes the finals, it's 3-0. I'd actually be more scared about RNG versus PSG than versus Damwon.
Yeah, I think PSG stylistically matches up well across the board, except in top lane. I think it is a gap with Jiahu and Hanabi, but it really depends if Cryan's able to reset his mental against one of the greatest to do it in Maple, available for LCS teams back in 2020.
No, he's not allowed to choke. I mean, he's like younger than like half the players that are like at the
Yeah,
whatever, but he's not allowed to choke like because he's Chinese.
Yeah.
You know, like
That-
it's different.
There's no.
It's different.
Yeah, it's different. Noted. Doggo and Kai Wing having a pretty good tournament, but yeah, that is the match that I'm watching with a bated breath. So we got RNG taking it 3-0, 3-1 for our MSI championships. Let us know in the chat, or I guess in comments, who you think can take it. The guy that got the I guess in our predictions, in my predictions video over on VENN Esports, the guy that got it and won his shout out on Facecheck was Yoshi SF. He got all 4 teams correct. He got Damwon and RNG in the right order. He got Mad Lions and PSG backwards. But Yoshi SF, he is the prophet of the Rumble stage. Put your predictions in the comments of this video, and you too will have your opportunity to be immortalized on episode. All right, with that, that's all the MSI covered, y'all. LCS preseason coverage will start in a little bit. The season starts in 2 weeks. I believe it's the first weekend of June. So we'll be covering that then. Keep an eye out on Twitter for the 3 of us to figure out what our schedule will be. But you can expect us to be back and cover how well NA bounces back. If Cloud9 can be one of the first teams after MSI to not suck, because there's a whole history, a backlog of going to MSI, coming back and being terrible.
I really think the C9 players are good enough. I think that's the most frustrating thing for me is like I don't take it like the players are incapable of posting better results. Like this is a team that I think they could have, like, if everything clicked and they actually performed their best, could make it out of groups, potentially make top 4 at Worlds. Like that's actually like the ceiling for this team. What scares me is their mentality and their reaction towards losing more than anything else.
Closing words, LS?
I mean, I'm looking forward to summer. Summer actually starts pretty soon, right? It's in like 2 weeks, so it's gonna be pretty good. Look, on the topic of Cloud9, okay, I'm most interested to see what happens with Fudge by the end of summer. Okay.
As in, like,
Think he's gonna ascend?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's he going?
I think he'll probably be better than he is now. I mean, I think he'll enter the argument for probably best Western player by end of summer.
Damn.
Mark it. Just like he said, Fudge top 2 in NA before everyone believed him. Now he's calling him maybe the best player in the West. Lots of copium, but you know what? LS called this one before. I think, there's definitely grounds to believe him. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in this episode of Facecheck. We'll be back to recap MSI finals and look forward to the LCS sometime next week. We appreciate all y'all. Have a great night. See ya. Subscribe. Look at all these cool things we have. They're right here. My producer said I have to do this.